Ace 9 off, we're gonna be opening if everybody folds to us, but we're not gonna play if somebody opens. Queen 7, we're gonna be opening from the cutoff. The games seems pretty good. This is 200 NL. I think it goes up to 500. I'm not sure how much the 500 zone actually runs, but I've heard there's some really good games at 1K, 2K there. Unfortunately, I cannot play there because I'm from Quebec. All right, deuce 4 suited. I mean, we could have opened. I'm trying to open the button a bit wider. I haven't even checked the lineup, so I mean, if he's like 20 bigs in the big blind, of course we're not going to be opening. A lot of tanking going on. I mean, it's hard to tank in these games because I think the max you can play is like 3 to 4 tables or something, like 4 tables. Ace 9 off, we're just always going to be folding, never going to do anything else. So against a min open, I would be 3-betting here, king queen off. I mean, those higher offsuit broadways plays very well versus like a shorter stack. I mean, you just against 100 big blinds, we're gonna be mixing like mostly calling and sometimes 3-betting. But against a 50 big blind stack, I would pretty much always 3-bet, just because of the fact that when we do flop a king or a queen, like even if we're behind, we only lose 50 big blinds. So, and also just that he's going to be calling a bunch of hands like queen 10 suited, king 10, that type of stuff that we dominate. And also we just flop top pair and we can just go with it. You know, it's pretty easy to play. Against 100 big blinds, if you flop top pair, let's say with queen high, I mean, by the time that all the money goes in, I mean, you're often going to be dominated, that type of stuff. So the higher the stacks are, the less the offsuit broadways are attractive. So like if we are 300 big blinds deep, I mean, we definitely don't want to be 3-betting hands like king queen off. We want to be 3-betting hands that can make the nuts, right? So once the stacks get shorter and shorter, those hands really get value because really start to gain EV just because of the fact that now we just get to 3-bet flop top pair and we can just go with the hand. Even if we lose, we only lose half a stack, which is not a problem. So I would almost always 3-bet here. It's fine. If he goes with a big bet size, I mean, we can fold against a smaller, like, I mean, half pot. I think it's really close. Really, like if we had a spade, it's a clear-cut call or check raise. Against a half pot, I mean, it's super, super close. I don't mind folding. Like, I'm kind of whatever, to be honest, with this specific hand. Like, if we had a spade, it would be like an easy like check raise or check call. But here, without the spade, like if he went like 3.5 bigs, I mean, it's an easy fold. If he goes like 1.4 bigs, I think it's a pretty easy call. I mean, it's really, really close. So I don't mind either that he does. He's probably going to end up folding, which I think is totally fine. So I kind of like the call, to be honest. I would have called against a half pot. Against a bigger bet size, I think we can fold. But again, like here, I mean, we have two options. If we want to be like, he's gonna have plenty of like, when he checks back the turn here, he doesn't really like, he's gonna have pure give ups, right? But he's also gonna be a bit scared of a flush. So it's not like he's just gonna have garbage, right? Like if the turn is like a deuce of heart and he checks back, I think his range gonna be a bit weaker than when the 4 of spade actually hits the turn. So also the fact that the ace actually hits him pretty well, you know, because let's say he c-bet a hand like ace 10, ace queen, ace king, and then he just checks back the turn, and then the ace hits him pretty well once he checks back. I don't think his range is going to be that weak, as again, like I mentioned, when the turn flush gets there, I mean, he's still going to be checking some strong hands, so I can see him having jacks. The thing is that like we have plenty of strong hands as well. We're going to have plenty of flushes. We can have some straights, some 2 pairs. We're going to have hands like ace 8, ace 5 that we make 2 pair on the river. So I wouldn't mind over betting here and going like really big bet, like 2x spot. Just try to make him fold like a jack or pocket 10s type of stuff. Or 8x that you decide to bet. I wouldn't mind doing that. If we are to bet, I would go big. I think checking is also fine, just giving up. So we open ace 8 off, we get cold called by the button. I mean, we're gonna have to do quite a bit of checking. Against a cold caller, I think my last webinar was on that, facing cold callers in position, where we look at like 3 different ranges when we were opening under the gun. And basically the main idea is that the tighter the cold caller is, the more we have to check. But the main concepts behind, like, even like against like a tight, like a 5% cold call, a 10% cold call, and then a 20% cold call, the main idea is that we have to be checking quite a bit, especially on those middling boards where it connects very well with his calling range. So the wider he gets, the more we can c-bet, but the more we can c-bet on the good high dry boards. So like the king high dry boards or some queen high dry boards. Even the ace high dry boards are not that great, just because he's going to be calling a whole bunch of ace x as well. Now, I like to check with this specific hand. I mean, we're just going to be folding. If we had the ace of diamond, maybe we could do something. With the 8 of diamond, I would just always fold. Even with with the ace of diamond against a 1/3, I don't think we can fold here. But with the 8, I would fold here. King 10 suited, nice hand to play. King 10 suited, pretty standard open. 3-5-6, board that connects very well with big blinds. He's going to be defending hands like 4 deuce suited, 7-4 suited, 5-3 suited, 6-3 suited, all the stuff that you don't open. So it's going to be like a really, really strong board for him, where he's going to have a lot of stuff that you don't have. I mean, we're going to have the sets, right? We're going to have like 6-5 suited as well, but we're never going to have straights here. I mean, very, very few amount of straights, maybe 7-4 suited. Sometimes, because the big blind is recreational, but again, that's quite a bit on the loose side without information, because we're on an anonymous pool and he just has a broken stack. So it's a board where I don't think we can just c-bet range. With this specific hand, we have some backdoor straight draw. We have 10 high. I don't mind betting. If I had jack 10 of clubs, I would probably end up checking. With 9-10, 9-10, 9-8, that type of stuff. I mean, 9-8 has a good shot, but here we have backdoor straight draw. We can make folds, hand like queen 8 type of stuff, which is great. Plus we have some tiny bit amount of equity on like straight turn, a straight draw turn, that type of stuff. But again, like Jack 10 off, I would Jack 10 of clubs are probably end up checking 9-10. I mean, we have a bit less showdown value, plus we have a bit more equity. So we're gonna be focusing our betting with like stuff like flush draws, backdoor flush draw, hands that have equity, so like a 4 or 7, that type of stuff. And then if we have a bit more showdown value, poor backdoors, those are the type of hands. So a hand like ace queen of heart, you know, we could start betting. Like we could start mostly checking, but again, we can still even bet for value on the flop. But a hand like, let's say, ace 10 of heart, you know, which has a bit showdown value, poor backdoor equity, it's going to mostly be a check. And then hands that has a bit less showdown value, a bit better backdoor equity, we can start betting more often. So I wouldn't mind betting here with this specific hand. And as far as sizing, like we could go with anywhere from like half pot to 3/4, I would say. And then he bets pretty big here. We only have a gut shot, 2 overs. I mean, it's really close. If I had like an open-ended with an 8, I would definitely be calling. If you bet a smaller size. Also, we have like the gut shot to the nuts. So like maybe we can start folding a hand like Jack 9, Queen 9, King 9, but this end we can start calling. Also, we might be good by hitting a 9 or a 10. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very close, to be honest, given the fact that he bets this size and we have the gut shot to the nuts. I think it's really close. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure about this exact spot, to be honest. I think it will be under bluffed. We have 10-eye. I mean, we're going to have to be bluffing river if he ever checks. And he can have 2 pairs. He can have straights. He can have plenty of stuff. So I just think folding is fine. Jack 3, we don't want anything to do with that hand. We're still gonna do maybe another like 20 minutes. King 8 off, we're gonna be folding. King 10, I mean, it's close. If there was a recreational in the big blind, I would definitely open. But I quickly scanned the table, and he's seen, he had a over full stack. He had over 100 big blinds in the big blind, so not going to be making adjustments. Again, we cannot make huge adjustments pre-flop because, we just don't have any information. You can get information on population reads, by downloading end histories and doing that type of analysis. King 10 suited, look at the size of the 3-bet. It's pretty big. We're under the gun. He 3-bets from the cutoff. So his range is going to be a bit tighter. He's going to be under 3-betting for sure. So here, it's not a spot where it's really attractive to call. So we're mostly going to be 4-betting, especially the fact that he makes it on the bigger side as well. So calling is not that attractive. Now he puts a bit more money into the pot by 3-betting bigger. So 4-betting is a bit more attractive because there's more money into the pot. But again, he's going to be under 3-betting. So it's not like we can just go crazy by 4-betting quite a bit because now he's putting more money into the pot. We just have to overfold versus the 3-bet because now calling calling out of position, the 3-bet always sucks basically. But once people start under 3-betting, it becomes even worse. And also once they start 3-betting really big, like 8.5, 9, 9.5, then it becomes even much worse. And at some point, like having no calling range is totally fine and just 4-betting your entire continuing range. So you're going to have to overfold a bit, which is fine. And when you continue, you just 4-bet. you just 4-bet your entire continuing range. So like this specific hand would get mixed into 4-betting sometimes, but I just think that we can start folding it. We can just start folding it and then 4-bet other stuff as well. We have plenty of other stuff to be 4-betting with. If we start 4-betting that, we're going to be 4-betting pretty wide. Unless we RNG like some low frequency, that type of stuff. So all in all, yeah, like I would be more inclined to 4-bet like more aggressively these type of hands at cutoff button, because now the ranges are much wider. Here I'm not trying to attack these type of 3-bets too wide. I'm still gonna 4-bet hands like ace jack suited, king jack suited, king queen suited. So we have plenty of other stuff like ace queen off sometimes as well. So we have plenty of other stuff to actually be 4-betting as a bluff. So if we start doing that with this, I think we're just going to be overdoing it versus is likely under 3-betting range. So let's see what he does. So he goes with the 4-bet. I think it's fine with the low frequency. Because he's going to have king jack suited, king queen suited, ace jack suited to do that with, you know, so like, yeah, I mean, with this specific hand, I think, I mean, it's a pretty good board for villain. We're never going to have 9s. I mean, the 5 is irrelevant. He should not have 5s. Like he can have hands like jack 10 suited. He's gonna have hands like ace queen. He can have hands like queens. He can have hands like pocket 9s for sure. He can also have hands like aces, king queen suited, that type of stuff. With this specific hand, I mean, like we have a gut shot to the nuts, backdoor flush draw. Plus we block king queen suited, which is great. Queen 10 suited as well. I'm not sure, like you should not have queen 10 suited there. Again, like all those analysis like in the zone games, like so a lot of the time they just have to go out the window because I mean they're just unpredictable and you do whatever. But I don't mind the bet here. I wouldn't like, he went with a really small bet size, so he went with a like 20% ish pot. Like maybe 24% each pot. I'm not sure why I said 24, but like he went with like a smaller bet size here. I'm not sure if that's a correct bet size. Those really small bet sizes are usually on boards where the equities are super locked up. So you see that on higher dry boards like ace-high boards. So if the board is like ace 9 deuce, it's either you have a super strong hand, right? Like you have ace king, for example, or your hand is way behind and you have a hand like queens against ace king. So it's either you have like 85% equity or 90% equity, or you have like 10% equity. There's nothing in between basically. But here, the equities are not as stable because there are some open enders. There's going to be some overcards. So let's say you have pocket jacks, for example. There's going to be overcards to the board, so the equities are not as locked up. So I wouldn't even be surprised if we just see bet 1/3 pot here instead of like 1/5 or something like that. So like those really small bet sizes, they do happen on the higher dry board, usually on the ace-high dry boards, where the equities are much stable. Now, okay, so he calls. I mean, we turn top pair. It's a turn that we can be pretty aggressive. We're gonna have kings. We can have hands like ace king. We're gonna have queens. We're gonna have king queen suited. We're gonna have ace king, pocket aces as well. We're gonna have. I'm not sure if I mentioned queens. We're not really gonna have jack 10 suited, but we can also have hands some queen, king 10, king jack suited. So it's a spot where we can be pretty aggressive. The problem here is that he's also going to have ace king, right? He's also going to have king queen suited. He's also going to have some jack 10 suited, but he might have jack 10 suited that we don't have. Plus he can have pocket 9s as well. I can even see people having kings here, but I mean, we have one king, so there's only one combo left. So I think that it's a turn that we can be very aggressive on. And have a small checking range. I wouldn't mind checking this specific combo Um, I wouldn't mind checking this specific combo as it's really like the worst like top pair we can have here. So yeah, like just going like small again with your entire range, I think it's fine. We have like a under pot left, so I think like going with like a smaller bet size is fine. I mean, jamming is a bit overplaying our hand. I think basically, yeah, we can do a mix of like checking. I kind of like checking this specific hand, to be honest. I think the stack to pot ratio is a bit small to just be going with like, I mean, we could bet something like 16 bigs on the turn. I like his check. Then he bets small. I think that's a fine sizing. Pretty tough spot, to be honest. I don't think I could fold here. I don't mind calling. You shouldn't have that many flushes. It's only hands like ace jack, ace 10, 9 10, jack 10. So there's only like 4, and that's if he actually calls them pre-flop, you know. So he doesn't have that many flushes. But yeah, I mean, not the greatest run out. I don't think it's hard to find bluffs, but again, like in these Bovada games, it's like I've seen some crazy stuff happening. I don't think I could fold there on the river, to be honest. Like I can see people having hands like ace 10 off there. They just play differently a bit. Like in those games, to be honest, you have to fold. Like you have to be willing to make more calls. You have to be willing to make like hero calls because people are just spazzing quite a bit. I think hero played his hand pretty well. And then on versus a river jam, I would end up calling there. Pretty curious about what he had. I think on Bodog you can have like all the hands afterwards, you know, like the next day or something like that. 9-6 suited, always gonna be calling. Pretty decent candidate to check raise. We have a gut shot, backdoor flush draw. I think it's fine. I mean, we're gonna have plenty of other stuff to check raise, but check raising this at some frequency, not always, is fine. I didn't know they had the peel feature where you see the next card. And queen 8 off without read, it's a bit too loose of an open. All right, so ace jack off, we open, get 2 calls. Again, it's one of these boards where like now both players are fully stacked, equal calls from the cutoff, so that tells me he's going to be a recreational, but it's just a very tricky board where even if we have a hand like kings, it's not a spot where we just want to be building a pot. Like, it's not. Because, I mean, any 7, any 6, any jack, any queen, I mean, we're not happy. Any heart as well, any ace. That's basically the whole deck. I mean, we just don't want, like, we want to be controlling the size of the pot, and then we want to start putting in money on later streets once the board runs out safer and we're a bit more aware of like how the board is going to run out. Because just piling in money with hands like kings here, I mean, it's just like a recipe for disaster. And then e-bet's very big into 2 players. I mean, we have the ace of heart, the jack. I mean, it would be a pretty good spot to actually check raise here as a bluff. but we're a bit deeper. He shows a lot of interest. I mean, we have also like good pot odds to just call. So I mean, I would just end up calling here. I think check raising has some merits, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty nice turn. I didn't even see he had the SPR up there, the pot odds and the SPR. I saw he had the RNG. So he bets very big again, like almost pot into, like, which is not great, but now we're not going to be folding. We have the redraw. I don't think he pots with two pairs and sets here. I mean, like the straight gets there and the flush. That would be pretty ambitious on his part. Pretty good spot. Like we're gonna have both. Like in theory, like it's a pretty nice spot to actually be bluffing here for us. Because we can rep many full houses. Like we're gonna have a bunch of like full houses, and we can have also some flushes. Like nut flushes, that type of stuff. But again, like I would not do that against this guy, but like in theory, this could be a pretty good spot. And then as far as the river fold, I mean, it's close, to be honest. Like it's really, really close. I don't think I don't think he has that much full houses in his range, but I mean, we never know with these guys, of course. With the ace of heart also having the straight, yeah, it's really close. Ace 5 off, we're always going to be folding. King 10 off, easy open. We get 3-bet, we're just always going to be done with it. It's way too loose of a 4-bet. Here I would just 3-bet small, so like he makes it 3x, which is not great. I would just 3-bet to something like 8. You know, don't want to make it too big so that now he starts jamming on me. So I still want to make it attractive so he can start calling. So like set like 8 big blind, I think is pretty nice size. Because if he jams, we have to fold, which is very not nice, like which is not great with this specific hand. So I kind of tend to make it a bit smaller there because I really want to make sure I get called. I mean, yes, it's a bit face up, but I mean, it doesn't matter. They're not going to see that. I mean, you could do the same thing with pocket aces, for example. So we could call here because the big blind was a recreational. Again, we don't have that much information. He has 67 bigs. Like I think I would end up folding there. Because when we start changing our strategy drastically, like the recursional has to be worth it, because I mean, in general, the rake is high and all that. Also, we are in the small blind, so even if he comes along, we're gonna be out of position to 2 players, which is not great. So, which is why I don't mind adjusting a bit more. Let's say if we are on the button, right, and then we see a recursional in the big blind, and then we start calling a hand like 6-5 suited on the button. I think that's fine. But when we are in the small blind here, I would not make a huge adjustments like these, and just stick with my regular standard strategy because we don't have that much information on the big blind. We just know that he's 67 big blinds deep. But even if he comes along, I mean, if we have a flush and all the money goes in, we have a 6-eye flush, which is not great. So all in all, like I would just end up folding there. If I were on the button and he opens, let's say, middle position and we have 6-5 suited and he's in the big blind, then of course we can start calling. I think that's fine. But here, changing our entire strategy just because big blind seems like a recreational, but we're still going to be ending up playing the pot out of position, you know, so which is not great. So I would just end up folding there. Let's do another few minutes and we can wrap things up. Not going to do anything with that. King Jack off, a very standard open. So small blind cold calls, which is great. I mean, which is great. So interesting spot. Like once the small blind cold calls, I mean, it's not like we're facing a big blind's range. So like, let's say big blind defends, he's gonna defend hands like Jack 4 suited, right? He's gonna defend like 6-3 suited type of stuff. So he's gonna be defending very wide. So against the big blind's range, which is much wider, like using a lot of like small betting, small bet, high frequency strategies makes a lot of sense because we put quite a bit of his hands into a tough spot, right? But when we do face a small blind cold call, the ranges are definitely not the same. So he's going to be calling hands like pocket pairs. He's going to be calling hands like broadways. He's going to be calling hands like ace-x, some suited connectors. So his range is not going to contain like that really garbage hands like Jack 4 suited, 6-3 suited, 7-4 suited type of stuff. So we cannot use the same strategy as we use versus the big blind against the small blind cold calling range. So here, I would look up, first of all, to be playing a lot more mixed strategies with bigger sizes. And on this board, that's what I would do. So I would not go ahead and just bet small. I would just stick with like maybe like a 2/3 pot, 2 3/4 pot strategy. And I mean, with King Jack off on this board, I mean, it's a clear cut bet. I would bet pretty much like 100% here. Again, we're going to be playing a bit more exploitatively. So I like the bet size. Yep. King Jack, great. I would go with something like, yeah, something like a pot. I was going to say like he's going to have hands like ace queen, queen 9. It's a turn that connects pretty well with this calling range, like Jack 10, King Jack, but we have King Jack here. There's 2 flush draws that there's gonna be some rivers that we cannot value bet anymore, like the ones that was there. So just picking up the value on the turn is totally fine. Plus having the top 2, like it's not the hand I want to go huge. If I had, let's say, a straight, I don't mind going huge against a recreational because we unblock some of his King X 2 pair that he might have. But when we hold the King and the Jack, that means that he's gonna have less stronger hands on that board. So King 8 suited, I like the open. We're just going to be checking here. Okay, let's take a look at the King's hand and then we can wrap things up. I would squeeze to something like 12.5. I think 12 is fine. Hopefully we get a call, but no. Okay, so let's take a look at one last interesting hand and we can wrap it up. Yeah, I don't mind bluffing here. We block some King Queen. But he's going to have hands like Queen 10, Queen 9, King, Queen Jack type of stuff that hits him pretty well. I don't mind the bluff, to be honest. Hands like 10-9 off, we're going to be 3-betting and calling. So like those offsuit, like those are the type of hands where people actually miss when they under 3-bet their big blind versus small blind range. three betting range, sorry. So like those are the type of hands that are getting mixed, like Jack 9 off, Queen 9 off, King 8 off, King 7 off, that type of stuff, 10 9 off. Those are the type of hands that are getting mixed between three bets and calls. So I don't use like the RNG a whole lot, especially for post flop, but mostly for the hands that I want to mix pre-flop as three bets, like this exact situation. That's one of the time where I would start using the RNG. Then we see the RNG is quite high, so I would definitely have three bet there, but it doesn't matter. So he goes with the big size, having like, we can start folding our worst 6x. So if we don't have like 6x backdoor flush draw, like 6-3 or 6-4 of clubs, we can start folding. I think second pair is too strong to be folding there. But I mean, seeing a big bet size is not, it's not appealing, but now that we picked up some equity, we also unblocked some bluffs. I think we have to call here again. It's not the greatest situations, but he can have some bluffs here. We have second pair. We have a gut shot to go along with it. I don't think we can fold here. Oops, so he timed out. He wanted to call, which I think is totally fine. It's not the best, you know, like it's not like I'm super happy about calling, but I mean, we have some added equity. We unblock some bluffs. Plus, it's going to be giving up as well. Like people are not going to be balanced just bluffing the river, so they're going to be under bluffing and all that, so we're going to get to realize a bit more of our showdown value, that type of stuff, and realize a bit more of our equity as well. So all in all, I think Zook played very well. The games looked very solid. He seemed to know what he was doing, the sizings and all that. He was adjusting as well in game. I think those Bovada games are quite different than the regular games. So if you're trying to play a good solid GTO style, it's not going to work there. You really have to be trying to exploit the player pool and all that. You can do some player pool analysis, that type of stuff. So all in all, I think you play great. So guys, if you have any questions about this video, please let me know in the forum. I'll be more than happy to go over it. Other than that, good luck on the tables, and see you next time.